Welcome back, folks. I'm Roger Ramsey. I'm the Executive Chef Instructor at the Culinary Pathway Hardin County Schools Early College and Career Center. Thanks for joining us. We're doing a little episode of EC3 Really Cooks. We can prove it because we got all this stuff sat out of here. We're going to make some food. So it's January. It's cold outside. It's hot in this kitchen. But we need a little comfort, need a little taste at home. Let's make some soups. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Mr. Bobby and I, oh, by the way, my dear friend Bobby Thompson, one of our co-teachers and sous chef for our show. We're going to make a chili. It's not the chili we're used to down here. It's that Cincinnati style chili. I don't want to offend all my friends up in Ohio, but it ain't really chili. But it is really tasty, so we're going to put it together. We're going to do a little cream of mushroom soup. Mr. Bobby, looks like you've got some potato soup working down there and some chicken and dumplings. So hang out with us. When we get done, if you'd like to have a recipe, it'll be attached to the end of the show. If you have a catering event you might need a little help with, give us a shout. We're self-sustaining. My kids buy the goods for their class through their efforts. So it's EC3K.catering to hardin.kyschools.us. I know it's a long one. It's attached to the end of the show along with the menu. So give us a minute. Let's get started making some food. So folks, we're gonna make Cincinnati style chili, and it's weird. It goes together weird. We do stuff for it that I've never done for anything else, but the end of the concoction is quite tasty. For example, we've got some ground beef. Generally, we brown the ground beef with some salt, pepper, some seasoning, maybe some onion, and that's how we would start our chili. This time we're not. We're putting our little humble ground beef straight into water. We're gonna boil that ground beef. Told you it's weird. Make sure the spurs are up, and that's all that's in there right now is ground beef and water. Break it up as you go. As the water gets hotter, the fat and the meat will start to melt. It'll come apart much easier. I brought a little insurance. Now, seasoning for chili, we generally use chili peppers. That makes sense. We're not using chili peppers this time. We're going to use a little bit of pre-mixed chili powder, but very little. But we are going to use the warm spices, the sweet spices. So we've got a little clove, some nutmegs, some cinnamon. We've still got cumin, a little comino that's used in the regular chilies. And of all things, we use a little chocolate. Now the recipe, if you want, it's going to call for a block of unsweetened chocolate. We don't happen to have any in the house, but what we do have is 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder and about a tablespoon of vegetable oil. It's exactly the same as what comes in that block of unsweetened chocolate. So it's going to take a minute to boil this water up, get that meat going. I'm going to tell you about our mushroom soup real quick. The mushroom soup calls for a product referred to as a shallot. And that's actually a big shallot. The shallot, if you're not familiar, it's a cousin in the onion family. Like I said, that one's pretty big. That's about as big as they're going to come. It's sweet. It's not got near the acid, the sulfur. It's not as harsh as an onion, and it has a hint of garlic as well. Generally, if you're going to use a shallot, you're going to do what's called a mince or a brunoise. And that's a simple matter. That part's garbage. We need to peel off the outside skin. We don't need it. It's kind of grody. Now, you've seen us, we've diced lots of vegetables, onions, everyday onions, celery, bell pepper, carrots. This is the same cut, just a little smaller. It's called a brunoise. Where our dices are generally about a 1/4 inch cubed, these are going to be about a 1/16 if I do it right. But same fashion, hold the top of the onion, or shallot this time, down, make cuts towards the root end, turn them 90 degrees, make cuts towards the root end, leaving the root intact because that holds all those leaves together. Then cut them down 1/16 inch cubes. You notice I'm using a smaller knife. This is a paring knife, and it's for this up close and personal work. I still got the big same pork chop hands, which sometimes are a liability. It's harder to hold on to smaller products. But that, ladies and gentlemen, quick and easy, is a brunoise. You've seen us do dices. We have some dices out already. Diced onion, diced mirepoix, brunoise. It's exactly like the dice, only smaller. Our hamburger water, that's an odd thing to say, is almost to a boil. We're going to cook it probably about 20-25 minutes or so, get that meat completely cooked through. Ideally, you would make this the day before you want the chili. You would take that conglomeration, put it in the cooler, put it in the refrigerator, and let the fat rise to the top. It'll congeal. You can peel it off. We don't have that kind of time. So what we're going to do, we're going to run it. As soon as the meat's cooked, we'll start building in it, and then we'll skim the fat off when it's done. Mr. Bobby, what have you got down there, sir?
We're going to make chicken and dumplings today. There are some easy ways to make chicken and dumplings. You can use canned biscuits. We prefer to make it from flour, and we just think it tastes a little bit better. But chicken and dumplings is something that my mother made when I was very little, anytime I was sick, and it always made me feel better. So this one's near and dear to my heart. We're going to start off with mirepoix, which is onions, carrots, and celery. It's 2 parts onion, 1 part carrot, 1 part celery. We're going to sweat this down in our pan first. These are all large dice, which we've talked about how to cut vegetables before. Those will be a large dice. While we're sauteing down the mirepoix, just show you some other things that we'll be working with. We have chicken that's actually left over from another meal that we did. You can take the skin off of fried chicken. You could do a rotisserie style chicken, just something that you had leftovers. This is a great meal for that. All we've done is taken that and shredded apart. Okay. The mirepoix continues to sweat down. The next thing we're actually going to add is going to be some flour to coat it. And then we have chicken stock. Again, chicken stock is made from the bones and the carcasses of chickens that we prepare here. We put it into a large kettle cooker with mirepoix, except we don't cut it as fine as big chunks of carrot, celeries, and onions. Add some salt and pepper and water, and then we bring it to a boil and kind of let it simmer for quite a while, and then drain it off, and you're left with chicken stock that helps provide flavor to everything that we cook here. We've also have veal stock, we've got turkey stock, different things. Whatever we cooked with, whatever type of protein, we usually will take its bones and we will turn it into some sort of stock. Our mirepoix has now sweated down for a few minutes. We're now going to put in some flour just to coat it. Stir this around. We did add some salt and pepper to it earlier. And all of that is coated. And we're going to put in our chicken stock. And we have a quart of chicken stock, 4 cups. And what we are going to do is bring that to a boil. And then we're going to simmer it down. Thank you, sir. When you get it to a simmer, the bubbles will be really small, and they're typically only on the outer edges of the pot. And that's how you know it is simmering. When it is boiling, the bubbles are everywhere. And for this, we're just going to turn it down. We're going to add, once we get this to a boil, we're going to add in half a cup of milk and our chicken. So this is ready for our milk. And we have several pieces of chicken here. That flour will also thicken up the stock. It's around all of the vegetables, but then also it will thicken this up so it won't be as soupy. So now we're gonna let that cook for a while. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go over to the bake side and we're gonna make some dumplings.
It's ugly. It's gonna pretty up, but right now it's ugly. So generally, we're making chili. We'll sweat down some onions when they go in. Nope. These onions go into the mix. Let's see what else we're putting in. We've got our onions, tomato sauce. Now, all those spices that I told you about, it's everybody in the pool at once now. We've got a little vinegar. We've got some chili powder. At least that's familiar. We've got our own version of block of chocolate, and that is cocoa powder and a little oil. We'll crush red pepper, minced garlic, straight in. A little cayenne and a bay leaf. Remember, pull that bay leaf back out. It's not good eats. Cumin or cubino, depends on where you're from. That looks like cinnamon. That looks like nutmeg. And that one looks like clove. A little Worcestershire sauce. And a little more salt and pepper. And now you let it ride. It's going to take an hour at least. Let it evaporate a little bit, reduce, cook the onions through. It gets much better than it started out, I promise. If you've not had Cincinnati style chili, Skyline chili, it's worth an effort. If you like chili dogs, it's top notch for that. So that's going to ride out. It's just going to have to do its thing and cook for a while. Let's talk about our mushroom soup. We're going to start with about 1/4 cup of butter. Okay. What we have in this tub is a combination of shiitake mushrooms and bella mushrooms. And all I did was run a knife through them 3 or 4 times to make what's called a duxelle. So it's a rough chop. It's not anything we generally do in class because there's no standard to it. You know, most things it's a dice. We know the dimensions, we know the shape, we can judge if it's done properly or not. We know a brunoise, a julienne, all right? This is not. It's just cut into small pieces. The smaller the pieces are, the more flavor you're going to get out of it. The butter's melted. And go with the mushrooms. We talked about the brunoise of the shallot. Here's what we did yesterday. Now, all that's going to need to cook down. It's going to take a few minutes. And then, much like Mr. Bobby did, he building a roux in his pan for his chicken and dumplings. Once our mushrooms have sweated, our shallots are cooked through, we're going to add a little flour, build that roux. That's what's going to tighten up our soup, and we'll move forward. Folks, just like Mr. Bobby and his chicken and dumplings built the roux in the skillet on top of his mirepoix, we're going to build a roux on top of our mushrooms. So we've got the butter that's melted in there. We're going to add plain all-purpose flour. Now, remember, a roux is nothing more than fat and flour mixed together, acts as a thickener. So the flour gets coated by all the fat from the butter, and that way it doesn't cause lumps. We've got about a pint of chicken stock. Make sure to keep stirring it till it comes to a boil. What will happen if you don't, the flour will come out of suspension from the butter and you'll still get clumps. Keep moving it, keep stirring it, don't scorch it, and you don't want lumps. The only texture you want are your mushrooms. That's a good thing. Lumps are not. Remember, season in layers. Okay, so we seasoned the mushrooms when they went in, then we seasoned the stock when it went in. Let it simmer a few minutes.
We're now going to make our dumplings for our chicken and dumplings. It's a very simple recipe. Now, when we're on the cooking side of this, we tell you add in kind of what you want, make it taste the way you want to. On the baking side of this, and that's what the dumpling part will be, you have to be much more precise in it because certain things interact with other things and it has to be at a specific ratio or it won't cook up right, okay? What we're gonna do is a very simple dumpling recipe. We have 1 cup of flour and then we've added a teaspoon of kosher salt, a teaspoon of baking powder, and then we took some thyme leaves and gave them another quick chop on them and then added those into our mix as well. We also have melted butter. It's about 2 tablespoons worth of butter. I'm gonna add this in. And we're just going to stir this until it's kind of crumbly. Don't want to over mix this. And anytime you make biscuits or in this case dumplings, you don't want them to over mix. The reason is it builds up gluten's in it and it makes it more stretchy and more chewy, and that's not really what we're looking for. So after we've mixed the butter in, we've got everything else stirred in, we're now going to pour in our milk. It's just half a cup of milk. And again, we're just going to try to get this together and not over mix it. Just try to suck up all of the liquid. And what we've got is basically like a very thick cookie dough. Now, our chicken and dumplings have been on for a little while, been simmering. We're going to turn the heat back up a little bit. And it's not like we have to go and roll all of this out and then cut it into little strips or little squares, anything like that. Actually, you can just use a spoon, and you don't need a large amount. One probably about the size of your thumb is a good amount, but you're just going to take a spoonful of it and drop it into the water. And it'll stay on top, but it will cook pretty quickly. Again, they're not going to be all the exact same size. They will double to triple in size. So again, you don't want them very big, but they will be very tasty. And each time we have stirred the chicken or have added something to it, we add salt and pepper and we taste it. One of the things you'll see around here, we've got spoons everywhere. Taste as you go. Again, make it taste the way you want it to taste. Sometimes a little bit of salt makes it taste really good, but a lot of salt is gonna really kill it. So only add a little at a time. And we'll be right back when this is all finished up.
Folks, in the process of making soups, great opportunity to use leftovers. We happen to have some leftover potatoes. I happen to like potato soup, so that worked out well. We're going to make a loaded potato soup. Starts out with some bacon. First, pan's hot. See? Oil the pan. Then we're going to cook, it's about half a pound or so of bacon. That's a goodly amount. If you don't like bacon, you could use another product. You can use ham. If you want to be vegetarian, you can leave the meat out altogether. I know those people are out there somewhere. But anyway, we're going to brown that bacon down, render it down, and we've got a small dice of onions going to go into it. It will cook in the majority of the bacon fat. Then we'll build our soup from there with potatoes, chicken stock, and a little bit of whole milk. So it goes quick and easy. Give me a couple minutes to get this bacon rendered down, and we'll move along. All right, folks, I've got the bacon browned up, rendered out, got most of the bacon fat out. We'll keep about a tablespoon or so. But, because it's rich, we're going to add a couple tablespoons of butter back in. Trading fat. Butter's melted, so just like all other soups, put a little flour in a pan and build our roux. Now come onion and garlic. Word of caution, garlic doesn't take as long to cook as onions. I mix them together. You got to keep them moving. You got to move them moving. Don't scorch your garlic, but you have to cook your onions. So make sure, let's check our recipe. We've got our bacon, we've got our butter, we've got our onions, we've got our garlic, we've got our flour. So now we need broth or stock. There it is. Oh, I'm sorry, there it is. And this chicken stock was made in-house. I think Mr. Bobby told you about it earlier. We're generally making vats about 30 gallons at a time. So, get that moving. Now, if you're cooking with the roux, you have to bring it to a boil. If you cook generally with a starch, cornstarch, arrowroot, flour, you have to bring it to a boil to understand it until it comes to its maximum thickening. What happens is that starch gelatinizes. It will suck in liquids, expand, and that's what causes that thickening, or we call it tightening. So if your soup, your sauce, whatever you're working on is too tight, too sticky, too thick, add a little bit more of your base into it, whatever your liquid was, whether it's chicken stock, veal stock, milk, cream, whatever you're using. Loosen it up to it's the right consistency. If it's too loose, the book says you cannot add more starch once you've used one. So your best bet is just heat it, let it reduce, let the liquid cook out naturally. And that's what we're doing down the street there where Mr. Bobby's standing now in our chili. There's a bunch of water in it. We'll just have to cook the water out. It will leave all the flavors behind. It just turns into it just evaporates. Turns into steam and goes away. The spoon's getting hot. Again, these are just leftover potatoes. I ran through a food mill and came up with a product that's going right in here to become our soup. Now this is a combination of Yukon Gold potatoes and New Red potatoes. That's what we had in the house. Anything that you could use to make mashed potatoes will work just as well. That's kind of too tight for a soup. We're going to loosen it up just a little bit with some milk before we're done. Speaking of milk, this is half and half. That means it's half whole milk, half heavy cream. And it will finish our mushroom soup. Lighten it up, make it rich. Now if you're adding milk, make sure you don't boil it again. You boil milk, it will curdle, it'll separate. It's not good eats. Do need to heat it. Well, folks, if y'all will give us just a minute, we're going to gather all our stuff together, get rid of this mess. We'll plate some soups up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. It's dead of winter, something comforting, something warm, soup day. We have Mr. Bobby's Chicken and Dumplings. Easy peasy, made from leftover chicken. If you want to make a chicken to use it, so be it. Grab you a chicken at the rotisserie at the Miss Walmart, absolutely, go ahead. Whatever chicken you want. We've got some leftover mashed potatoes turned into potato soup. Garnished as you would a baked potato. So we've got some cheese, a little more bacon. We've got a couple potato chips. We roasted those off, a little green onion, and some creme fraiche, crema, sour cream, whatever you like. Our mushroom soup. It's rich, it's full, it's earthy, all kind of umami. We float a little heavy cream on top and a few roasted mushrooms. You know what's in there because they're laying right on top of it. And then we have our spaghetti. We didn't talk about spaghetti, did we? Well, we have spaghetti. Classically, traditionally, Cincinnati style chili is served on top of spaghetti. That starts a whole debate about whether or not you put macaroni in chili. My mama did, so I can't complain about it. I don't, but my mama did. So, here's our chili. That's what we made. And see, it looks a whole bunch better than it did when it was just meat boiling in water. So, we've got spaghetti, we've got our chili, and that is chili 2 ways. But there's more. Let's add a little cheese. Now it just became chili 3 ways. But there's more. Let's add some beans. That's chili 4 way. But there's more. Let's add a little onion. Traditionally, it's white onion. I already had green onion cut. It's onion. And there you are. Chili 5 ways. Folks, soup warm you up from the inside out. Show the people you love how much you love them. Make a little something for them. Till next time, happy January. Here's looking to get through winter. Take care, folks. We'll see you next time on EC3 Really Cooks.